Thank you all for being here. So I will get this meeting started, call the meeting to order. So Aitsquel, Siam Nasiea, Aishqualawan, Kwana Silam Nala. We respectfully acknowledge that we are meeting on the traditional ancestral lands of the Hulkaminam speaking people where we live, learn, and play. Motion to adopt the agenda moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Sousa. All those in favor? Thank you. 3.1.1 Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you. The next three items are all related to the capital plan submissions that have been submitted to the ministry that require board confirmation before the board will, before the Ministry of Education and Childcare will accept them. The very first item is in relation to a 5-year capital plan submission for school infrastructure program for 2023-2024. So we have submitted an ask for $200,000. So this aligns with the Feeding Futures Fund to support schools that don't currently have refrigeration necessary to store food as they receive services from Nourish Cowichan. So $200,000 we believe will be beyond what they will approve. It's a $5 million fund. We're approximately 1.5% of the province. That would mean our share, if there was such a thing as a share, would be about $75,000. So we feel that after Cheryl Coors, the associate superintendent, went out and asked all the schools who had what and who needed what, we put together a plan, and this is what this is: $200,000, various locations. And if we get it, there's a priority list as to which schools would be first to receive it based on need.
Thank you. Any questions before we move to the motion? Hearing none, in accordance with provisions under section 142(4) of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley hereby approves the proposed 5-year capital plan school food infrastructure program for 2023-2024 as submitted to the Ministry of Education and Child Care. Moved by Trustee Thorne, seconded by Trustee Doman. All those in favor? Thank you.
Okay, moving on to my next item here, which is major capital plan submission for 5-year capital plan. So this is the big ask. They haven't asked yet for school buses. That will be coming in later, and they haven't asked yet for minor capital. That will be coming in later. So this category is what would be considered major capital, where we have ranked kind of in accordance with some of the work we've done around the long range facilities plan. We have ranked the additions that would be desirable. We have ranked new schools in order that would be desirable based on where population trends appear to be occurring. And we would say that a change on the new school would be the reduction in Bell-McKinnon being a #1 priority and sliding that down to #3 priority. So what we're hearing after meetings with North Cowichan is the building planned in that area is intended to be more seniors type housing that's close to the hospital and supporting the hospital. And North Cowichan did not extend the urban containment boundary to the other side of Herd Road and Bell-McKinnon, which leaves that property still in its current zoning status situation. So we don't see that area as having this significant pressure as like with the south end, where when we're looking at the enrollment trends for Bonner and Discovery and Bench, for instance, they're continuing to bring in quite large cohorts, and in fact, I think Bonner is already over 40 students, greater than what we thought they were going to be for next year, just from the swing from February to today. So we now have South Zone at the top on that list. For replacement renovation, we have 2 secondary schools, which would be Lake Cowichan and Chemainus. Now, of course, we're not likely to get these, but we're putting down our projects based on if we were to have replacement, where those would need to be based on the facility condition index.
Mr. Sandquist, I just want to let you know that Trustee Sousa's got to leave in like 2 or 3 minutes, and if we want to
roll
agenda.
Okay. The only other thing we've done then on seismic is we still have a quorum without Trustee Sousa.
Oh, okay.
So
right,
we've been joined. So
is with us.
Okay.
So I can rush through it, but I want you to be aware of what you're adopting.
Yeah.
So then we also have seismic, where we have gone now with the ministry's ranking on seismic. So at one point we had ranked ourselves with Quamachin as a higher priority because we were hopeful to have that in part of the cycle of using Cowichan secondary. Now that we know that that's not going to that timing is not going to align, we've gone and put Alexander at the top of the list, which is what the ministry is actually suggesting is our most significant seismic risk of a school remaining. And then under site acquisition, Maple Bay becomes our sort of our number one priority. And when we mean site acquisition, we mean trying to acquire some of that land behind Maple Bay that currently belongs to North Cowichan. And we'll have some further conversations about that in closed. But if we are to expand that school anytime in the future where there is a significant development around it, and there's a lot of suites in that area that are beginning to demonstrate children or show children that we weren't predicting before. So with that, we're asking for $250 million. We're not likely to get anything off this list in the next year.
Any questions for the Secretary Treasurer? Trustee Croft.
Sorry, the mute button disappeared for a second there. I just wanted to let you know that the whole thing about the population for the Bell McKinnon area is they're looking at 6,000 units for 12,000 individuals. To say they're all seniors is extremely short-sighted because this demographic bump has at best 15 to 20 years left in it. So those small units will fill up with young families. So I just want to thank Jason for keeping that need on the radar at whether it's first, second, or third, it will come up again.
Yeah, we're actually wondering if it needs to be closer to Maze Road and Crofton, because we see Crofton growing and thinking that probably something that bridges those two communities may actually be the ideal future location.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So some people go a little north and some come a little south, and yeah.
Any other questions for the Secretary Treasurer? Hearing none, we have a motion before us in accordance with the provisions under section 142(4) of the School Act. The Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley hereby approves the proposed 5-year capital plan, major capital programs for 2024-2025 as provided on the 5-year capital plan summary for 2024-2025 submitted to the Ministry of Education and Childcare. Moved by Trustee Thorn, seconded by Trustee Croft. All those in favor? Thank you. Moving to the last item on the agenda.
There should be one more, and I'm sorry, I think there was to be another item on the agenda for Feeding Futures Fund.
Yes, I didn't see that.
No.
Okay, may I now ask to add 3.14 Feeding Futures? It was intended to be included in your agenda package. It'll follow after.
Trustees, we've already adopted the agenda. Can I just get a nod of a head if you're okay with that?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we'll add it as 3.1.4.
Thank you. So the last portion of the capital plan submission that requires board approval is building envelope program. So as we know, this would be what would formerly have been called leaky condo syndrome, or just the envelope of the building to address moisture issues. So the school that we have listed here is Alex Aiken with a project ask of 2.5 million.
Any questions for the Secretary Treasurer? Seeing none. In accordance with provisions under section 142(4) of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District 79, Cowichan Valley hereby approves the proposed 5-year capital plan building envelope program for 2024-2025 as provided on the 5-year capital plan summary for 2024-2025 submitted to the Ministry of Education and Childcare. Moved by Trustee Sousa, seconded by Trustee Doman. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Perfect. Secretary Treasurer, if you want to just
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to share my screen. My apologies. We had this ready to go and missed it. Looking forward with the Feeding Futures Fund that's come in for next year, the board needs to make a commitment to a portion for Nourish Cowichan. And I'm sorry you didn't get a chance to see this in advance and contemplate it. So I'm going to go through it line by line as to what's being considered for the distribution of those monies. So this is money that's all to be spent on food programs, where this year's program, as you know, was called Student and Family Affordability Fund. This is Feeding Futures. So the grant is $1,018,779. And when we look at commitments, which are items that in the budget we moved in here, so say from Community Link, we had some staffing and we had some food grants. We're looking at doubling the food grants to schools. So right now they're at 64,250, but the money that the schools actually have discretion over in their desks for directly buying food services for the schools. So after those commitments, we have a balance remaining of 791,992. Working with a school principals, associate superintendent, Cheryl Coors, got an idea of what would be required from a staffing level. So what we're hearing a lot from QP and from schools is who has the time to distribute the food. So looking at an hour a day for say an education assistant to have that time added to their shift for 15 schools, because a number of our schools already have it and not every school has that food program in the scale that requires it. That would cost about $120,000. So it's about $8,000 an hour. So then we decided to look at, well, what would be an appropriate contribution to Nourish? And this year was roughly half of that. It was about $308,000 out of the funding that was provided through Student and Family Affordability Fund. So knowing that their program is expected to be feeding about 1,500 students. I think there's a point this year where we started the year at somewhere closer to 1,000. So the growth is significant as inflation affects families. We thought, well, what if we doubled their allocation and sent them with 620,000 versus basically the 310 from last year. That would leave a contingency of $51,992. The reason we wanted to keep a contingency was, what if we didn't get enough capital funding to deal with all the refrigeration pieces that we've asked for? What if the schools, in fact, need more at their own level and more than, maybe they need more than twice what they had this year for the funds that they need to do locally. So this is sort of how we laid it all out. But the main piece here would be to approve adding an hour a day per school for somebody like an education assistant to do food delivery and to double the Nourish Couch and allocation. So we were hoping to get a motion from the board to approve the 2023-2024 Feeding Futures Fund financial plan.
Any questions? Seeing none. So just okay, thank you, Elizabeth. I'll get right to you, I promise. Just so you know, Jason, when I was at Nourish, I think it was into November, December when Fatima invited me to Nourish. At that point, we were feeding just short of 1,300 kids, but still 200 more kids is a lot of kids. Just so you know the numbers. Trustee Croft.
Yeah.
So my question is, how does the Starfish program fit in under this? Does it flow from Nourish to the Starfish program for the weekends?
Secretary Treasurer.
I know Starfish is based out of Nourish, but I'm not sure how they fund that either. We're just part of their budget, their overall budget. So I'm imagining. I know it's based out of Nourish Couch in McCall Mount Provo. I know Starfish is there because I see Starfish there. I'm just not sure how internally they operate that program.
Yeah, well,
I can tell you.
Sorry, go ahead.
That when I was up at Nourish and I talked to Corrine, who was the Rotary person that came to the board originally with the Starfish program, she said that that Rotary rolled the Starfish program into Nourish, so it was all one now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Comments? None? So Secretary Treasurer, that would be that the Board of Education.
School District 79, Cowichan Valley approves the 2023-2024 Feeding Futures expenditure plan.
Moved by Trustee Sousa, seconded by Trustee Doman. All those in favor? Excellent. Thank you, everybody. And that there'll be no further business. Motion to adjourn, please. Trustee Sousa, seconded by Trustee Doman. Thank you for coming out on Zoom, everybody. And I hope that you have a wonderful summer.